Now again, drop your poisons, get that damage going. The Witch class in Path of Exile 2 is probably my favourite in the game, coupled with the Warrior. So, this is my Infernalist Minion Chaos build going into Crawl mode. We are currently in Act 3, we are level 48. We're going to go over everything passives, we're going over the skills, the gems, abilities, all that fun stuff. So if we start with our passive tree, and we're going to start with our lovely Infernalist. Now the first two nodes we take, Minion Life for the 12% increase to maximum life, followed by Loyal Hellhound. This is a free summon, doesn't use any of your spirit, totally worth having. Now if you can get through the rest of the trials in Act 3, you can obviously take more sections here. In my opinion, I probably would go down this one, go to Life, and then go to Altered Flesh, just to get all of this lovely stuff here. If you wanted to, you could also go with Demon Form, the choice is really yours. Now as we go through the build, you'll notice we're focusing on a few things that should become apparent as we go into the game. The main thing is bolstering up our minions. The second thing, just adding a little bit of Chaos DPS. Not a huge amount, the minions are obviously the main part of this build, especially how we play the minions, which you'll see soon. But alas, we're going to go forward. So we start on the left hand side with spell and minion damage. We follow this path to the north, and we're going to go both to the left and the right hand side node. So I would start on the left, and I would take the increased spell damage as well as the increased minion damage, take it once again until you get to Raw Destruction, plus 10 to intelligence. We love things that boost our stats. As you can see, I'm rocking 51 strength, 62 dex and 105 intelligence. Minions also deal an increased 16% damage, which is crazy at level 6, and 16% spell damage. I would then fill out the nodes coming down here to fill out the diamond entirely, and this will give you your 10% increase in maximum life for them. Now from this point I would go to the left. With nodes such as this with your attributes, we have one here, we have multiple as you follow your skill tree going all the way up. You want to pick and choose these based on your gear. Now the reason I say that is because with your gear, if you pick up something that gives you plus 25 to intelligence, you're not going to want to use this node for intelligence. You're going to want to use it for strength or for dex. You can also respec with the hooded one, as you will probably know by this point in the game. So bear that in mind, these nodes you can change out, and if you need to refund them, do not be afraid to. Just refund them. You can do it mid-game without having to refund all of these. You can just switch them for another node, nice and simple. So we're going to follow these nodes up here, and then we're going to go on the inner loop. The inner loop will give you chaos damage. So we can pick up a 7, another 7, another 7, and another 7 for a total of 28 increased chaos damage, and obviously this will scale up because the original 7% that you pick up will scale on top until we get to Spiral Insanity. 29% increased chaos damage and 10% increased global defenses. Now from this point here we're going to come back to Raw Destruction, and we're going to go to the right. A 3% increased cast speed, into the middle for Practice Signs, a 6% increased cast speed, and we're going to follow this loop all the way along until we get to Pure Energy. This will give you a plus 10 to intelligence again, we want those stat boosts, and a 30% increase in maximum energy shield. Energy shield is going to be your best friend, it's going to help keep you alive. Now from this point we're going to come to the right hand side. Minion life 10% to living death. So minions have 15% increase in maximum life, and they revive 15% faster. This is a big boost at this part of the game. Going north for the minion life, and then this is where we get into our solid stat block arrays. 5% dex here, and then going up this, again you're going to want to change these depending on what nodes you're using. Now for me personally, I go all the way to the top until I get that jewel slot. These jewel slots are amazing. Unfortunately, I haven't really picked up a good jewel across any of my playthroughs yet for the Witch. The best one I have is this one, which you can see minions have a 6% increase in maximum life. But in this jewel, I would put anything that boosts your cast speed, your minions in any way, your intelligence, even your chaos damage. One of those 4 groupings, or energy shield, those 5 groupings I should say, they will really be your creme de la creme for your jewels. Now at this point you are going to want to come to the left, and you're going to pick up as many of these as you can until you get to the minion damage here. Now, the reason we're going to go to this weird little shape here is we want the key thing at the end. Minions have 12% reduced reservation. Basically, this means minions use 12% less spirit, meaning you can pump more out, have a bigger army. Now, how do we get here quickly? Well, first things first, if you really wanted to, you could just unspec your chaos damage over in this section, and you could bump it back up into this section here, or just make your way over here as you're going through the game. Now, once we get to this point, we're going to come north, 12% increased damage, and we're going to take the left-hand route because we want more damage. We're going to pick up a total of 48 increased damage until we get to the Lord of Horrors. Now, once you've got Lord of Horrors, come back down here and we're going to go to the left. Minion area. 10% increased area effect, another 10%, and another 10%. Right Hand of Darkness. Minions have 20% increased area effect. Minions have 10% chance to inflict Withered on hit. And they might be wondering why we're taking the area effect. You will see that when we get into our gems and our playstyle. But once you've done that, we are going to fill out the rest of this. I personally leave the elemental resistances till last. It is nice to have, but not necessarily. And I would take the maximum life. Make them as tanky as you can. And this will bring you to the left Hand of Darkness. Total minions have 20% additional physical damage reduction, and minions have 23% chaos resistance. Once this is all loaded up, fill in your diamond in the middle with the minion resistances, and we can move on. Now from this point, if you have another jewel that you can use, I would urge you to come to the left hand side. As you can see, this is more akin to what we need. 14% increased critical damage bonus, 9% increase in magnitude of ailments you inflict, and minions have 3% increased attack and cast speed. This is by far the best jewel I have for this build, and again, you'll see why when it comes to our playstyle. Now once you have this filled in, we are going to come back to the center where we put our first gem, and we're going to come back down, and once we get to this little loop you can see here, where we have this weird little circle with the diamond in the middle, for overexposure, we're going to come left, we're going to take 2 nodes here, again fill them out wherever you need, and we're going to come down straight. Minions and life and chaos resistance, we're going to boost this up. 7% increased chaos resistance and 8% increased life. Take it once again and fill in your loop for Vile Mending. Minions have 20% increased maximum life. Minions regenerate 3% of life per second. Minions have 13% increased chaos resistance. Now once this node is done, we're going to come to the other side and take the chaos damage. We're going to pick up 7, 14, 21 increased chaos damage, and we're going to end it with Void. 29% increased chaos damage. Enemies you curse have minus 3% to chaos resistance. We don't really use curses in this, unfortunately, so that's null and void, but 29% increased chaos damage is phenomenal. So you might be thinking, okay, how are we going to be doing this? Well, our first skill is of course the Infernal Hound. Free, just summon you can get, it will burn enemies, it's amazing. After this, I would take a one that gives you Chaos Bolt. Now you can see we do 51 to 95 chaos damage. It's not a huge amount by any stretch of the imagination, but if you can just chip away at the enemies while your minions make them suffer, it's perfect. If we look at our sockets, you'll see we have Withering Touch, so we'll support Withered. If we check out what Withered does, if I press the right button, come back to my skills here, manage sockets, here we go. So if we click on Withered, Withered applies 5% increased chaos damage taken and can be inflicted up to 10 times. Again, a nice way to boost your chaos damage. We also have Pierce, so the skills will go through the enemy to another one behind it. However, they do take 30% less damage. And then Blind, 100% chance to blind enemies on hit, meaning less likely to land hits. After this, we're going to take Skeletal Warrior Minion, and for this, we're going to take Last Gasp. So they'll die 4 seconds after their life reduced to 0. And Minion Instability. Minions from support skills explode and reduce to low life, dealing 15% of their maximum life as fire damage. After that, we're going to take Flame Wall. Flame Wall is amazing in this game, in my opinion. Couple it with Arcane Tempo, so 25% more cast speed, and with Intense Agony. Damage over time, the buffs inflicted on full life enemies by supported skills, 50% more damage, and 25% less skill effect duration. The reason Flame Wall is so important for this build is because of Raging Spirits. You cast 2 Flame Walls, you'll get 10 Raging Spirits appear, and these are little minions of flaming skulls that will just go through and attack enemies. Couple this with Fire Infusion, it's 25% of damage as extra fire damage, and Fire Penetration. They have an extra 30% fire penetration, you can really buff out some damage. Now, after Flame Wall, we have got our Skeletal Sniper Minion, and this is probably the biggest part of this build. These guys are amazing. We're going to put Scatter Shot on them, so support skills deal 20% less damage, but fire 2 additional projectiles. And I'll show you how important that is. And we're going to couple it with Binding. So, supporting minions' command skills deal 30% more damage. After that, we have another Skeletal Warrior minion. Reason being is one of these comes from our Scepter, one of them comes from our actual skills. But this one, we have Meat Shield and Heavy Swing. After this, we have our Skeletal Reaver, and we're going to couple this with minions from supporter skills, deal 30% more damage thanks to Feeding Frenzy, but take 20% more damage. After that, we have Ray Zombie. You're probably not going to be using this that much, to be honest, by the point of this build, but it is always nice to have. We have Contagion. Again, nice skill to have in the early game. As you go through and you get more skill gems and start unlocking the level 12 skills, probably not going to want to use this, honestly. Skeletal Storm Mage. Again, frost damage from this, it's just nice to have a little bit of a mix-up. And then the Frost Mage. So you can see we have options of having a Storm Mage or a Frost Mage. Now if we go over, oh, as I pressed the wrong thing, if we go over our skill bind and we look at our spirit, you can see we have the Hellhound, we've got 2 snipers, we've got 2 warriors, 2 reavers, our raging spirits, and then we have 1 Frost Mage. If you wanted to, you could buff your skeleton snipers up, as you'll see when it comes to actual our playthrough of how good they can be. But alas, that is how I run this build. Now if we come to our inventory again, we really want to focus on a few things. We want to boost our intelligence or any other stats. We want to boost our energy shield or evasion. We want to boost anything to do with our minions or spirit. And then we basically just want cast speed, chaos damage, that sort of thing. So if we start with our lovely wand, you can see 28% increased chaos damage, 26% increased critical hit chance for spells, and a plus 17 for intelligence. Coming to our next ring, you can see we have extra accuracy, we have 13 to intelligence and 13 to dex. Coming to our armor, you can see 20 quality, make sure you put in your armor scraps on these things. You'll see we have a 58% increased evasion and energy shield, plus 40 to spirit, hugely important because spirit will allow you to cast more minions. Plus 15 to dex to help out with some armors, and a 25% reduced attribute requirement. For our hat, you can see again, boosting up our quality, but 44 to invasion rating, plus 18 to maximum energy shield, 24% increased evasion and energy shield, and a plus 1 level to all minion skills. When it comes to our amulet, again, plus 10 to spirit, 17% increase in maximum energy shield, and 83 accuracy rating. Just things to help us hit, give us more minions, all that fun stuff. For the next ring, you can see it's very mana heavy, not too important because we have lots of mana anyway, but it's always nice to have extra, bit more life and dexterity. Our scepter, as you can see, gives us a bunch of spirit, grants the skill Skeletal Warrior Minion, plus 24 strength, and minions have 33% increase to maximum life. For our boots, 67% increased armor and energy shield, 6 life regen, hugely important for this. For our belt, you can see we boosted our armor, 105, more maximum mana, 4.3 life regen per second. And then it comes to our armway, if you want to call it, 17% increased armor and energy shield, plus 12 to maximum life, 13% increased attack speed. One way to boost your DPS if you can't get damage up, make it quicker. So let's show it in combat. Okay, so you can see we are in the riverbank and this is crawl mode, and you can see we don't do much damage like I said, but everything is burning. Now how this build really comes into effect, we drop our archers, they get all their poison going, and you can see our Hellhound will explode things, and our Raging Spirits will. And it's just a really nice way of just boosting your attack damage. You see we have so many minions on the battlefield that we never need to really worry about being in damage, even when there's so many enemies, as you can see here. We can just drop our Raging Spirits with our Flame Wall, and then they'll do half the damage for us. But, like I said, most importantly, the key thing about this build is dropping your poisons and then having all those explosions get caused. Once again, you could even dump your fire damage up to really benefit this. As well as that, again, more of your skeleton minions. The more minions you have, the more chance you're going to have of dropping the amazing amount of poison, because the poison will diminish the enemies anyway, but the more archers, the more you can pump that damage out. Now you can see just how much damage we can do to enemies up in this direction. You see the whole explosion going there, it's just incredible. And again, you can do things such as you can get your contagion going if you want to. And this will start killing enemies, and this will also spread to other enemies. Again, it's not really something you're going to be using much at this point in the game, but it is still a handy skill to have, because any little bit of damage is always helpful. And of course, you want to get more minions? Well, let's just summon a bunch, thanks to our raised zombies. Again, this is a skill I kind of neglect at this point, but you can see we now have 9 extra zombies. And you have just a whole minion army at your disposal, and if you keep recasting them, you really just have a proper unstoppable army. Alright, let's see what kind of damage we do to the boss here. That's charging towards us. Now again, drop your poisons, get that damage going, and you see lots of crazy fire damage going. Okay, and that was my Minion Witch Chaos Infernalist build for Cruel difficulty. Let me know in the comments what you think below. I think it's incredible. It breezed through Act 3 and I could not be happy with it. So, if you haven't already, please drop the episode a like, it helps me tremendously. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. If you haven't already and you wish to, please subscribe to the channel, it helps me tremendously. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.